What if every experience, every hardship, every obstacle was given to you, not to break you, but to mold you and strengthen you? What if the center of your suffering was actually the key to ultimate health? And what if your own pain was meant to be the catalyst for your greatest purpose? Welcome to Buddha Belly Life, empowering purpose, mind to microbiome.
Welcome to the Buddha Belly Life podcast. Today, we are talking about the compound effect of chemicals and toxins on our body and specifically our gut, which causes issues in our entire body. You guys, this is an important topic to cover because frankly, if people fully understood, and this is how it became real to me, if we really understood the implications of all of these toxins and chemicals, okay, because toxins sounds kind of subjective, right? But chemicals on our body and our health, I can tell you right now, none of y'all would be smelling like perfumes. Places like Bath and Body Works would likely not exist. Because if you understood, and this isn't a shame session, it's just a reality check. We got to get real about the information and about the facts. And so that's what we're doing, right? You choose to take it, choose to leave it, choose to think on it, research it more yourself, go for it. But if you are somebody who cares about your health, this should matter to you. This should really matter to you if you're somebody that struggles with autoimmune conditions or any kind of undiagnosed, like especially women are often dealing with what they call invisible illness. You're going to your doctor saying, I don't feel right, something's not right, I'm dealing with chronic, fatigue, migraines, irregular cycles, horrible periods, mental health, joint pain, sleep issues, skin issues, all this kind of stuff, right? And this sounds maybe thyroidy, or it sounds, but oh no, your blood work came back fine, there's nothing there, okay? So obviously this is happening more often than it ever should. And the reason why we're talking about chemicals today is because chemicals in relation to the gut are very important to understand. And if we want to be our healthiest selves, or we want to stop some of the degrading of our health on the regular, we want to lessen our chances of cancer and disease and suffering and increase our quality of life, then we're going to want all the information. And for a lot of us, I feel like the chemical exposure, compound chemical exposure, is just not dug into enough unless it's your thing, okay? And some people are really into it because they're just really crunchy, right? Like I'm a little crunchy, but it still doesn't mean that we necessarily fully understand the weight of it. So we're going to do that today. All right, my friends. So the compound effects of chemicals on our health and our gut. We're going to talk about kind of the concept of chemical exposure and a brief overview of the sources, such as our air, food, water, body products. Importance of understanding this in our gut health. Okay, so chemicals in the air, this one can be kind of disconcerting. And when I interviewed on the podcast about a year or so ago, we interviewed Dr. Jill Carnahan, and she was there to talk about mold. And when we looked at Mold and Faith was the title of that podcast. And it was mold exposure, but she was also talking about her experience of being a cancer survivor, a child cancer, or in her younger years, she got cancer very early in her 20s. And how even in the group of other cancer patients she was in, she's the only one alive today. And she was exposed to a lot of farm chemicals when she was growing up. And so we got into talking a lot about that. And she enlightened me and said, our air is the greatest sources of chemical exposure. And that felt really overwhelming to me because I felt like, gosh, how the heck do we control our air? Depending on where we live and stuff. But I think that the reason for this is the kind of chemicals that they're not just in the pollution, which we'll talk about, but the kind of chemicals seeping off of so many things in our home and from our homes and things like that. So how we can lessen some of that. This is really important. So chemicals in the air, okay, this consists of sources of airborne chemicals. We have pollution from obviously industrial activities, vehicle emissions. That's what most of us probably think of with air pollution, right? But we also have household products, and this is a problem. Common airborne chemicals are like benzene, formaldehyde, yes, the stuff that they embalm bodies with, particulate matter. And the health effects of these kind of chemicals, you'll often see respiratory diseases like asthma, COPD. And how often do we just slough these things off? Oh, I have asthma. We don't look further. We don't look further as to what we could do or what maybe is underlining that or exacerbating that. We see cardiovascular issues a lot. So increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. Became a really big deal when COVID happened, right? Because it was really affected a lot of people's lungs. And so if we already had a weakness there, it became very scary. According to the WHO, air pollution causes 7 million premature deaths annually. Can we just sit with that for a second? 7 million. We've got 7 or 8 billion people in this world. 7 million premature deaths annually are caused by air pollution. All right, what? That's insane. And so the impact on the gut is just like everything that impacts the gut. Okay, inhaled pollutants can alter gut microbiota composition, leading to dysbiosis. Studies link air pollution to inflammatory bowel diseases, like Crohn's, colitis, IBD. And we see it coming the same way. So when we've got it in our air, any kind of threat or assault that we deal with is in a form of stress, right? So we think of emotional stress, mental stress, but chemical stress is a thing. So just like an injury, that's a physical stress. Chemical stress is when the body's having to deal with toxins and an assault externally. And this leads to dysbiosis, just like poor diet does, just like extended stress does, and unhealthy coping mechanisms. They cause the gut microbiome to the good, more preferential bacteria that we need in higher numbers for our health deplete and die off. And we have more of the gram-negative bacteria that are causing more inflammation, disease. They're messing with our neurotransmitters, with our brain function, our hormones, and setting us up for all types of disease. And so chemicals are very implicated in a lot of this gut dysbiosis too. Chemicals in our food are obviously a thing. Okay, I think most people think of chemicals in the food. This consists of pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, food additives, and preservatives. Really, when they changed, especially in the 80s, when genetically modified organisms started coming about, they started creating food, quote unquote, like the flavor saver tomato and types of GMO corn. And they created so much more after that, but they would basically splice the DNA of these what were food with all kinds of stuff in order to get an effect. And they wanted it to be hardy. They wanted it to have its own built-in pesticide. So with that became our exposure to pesticides, not just on top of our foods in non-organic farming, but also in some of these foods, built into the DNA of the product. So this became a problem, and it was denied that it was really an issue, but it is an issue, because if it's going to kill bugs on the outside, what do you think it's doing to the critical bugs that exist in and on your body? The ones that are there, present, and affect all aspects of your health. What do we think it's going to do to that? You think it's going to skip that? No, it doesn't. It decimates. So the health effects of this are obviously they're chronic disease, diabetes, obesity, cancers. Pesticide exposure is linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. This is a really direct link that they've created. We've seen time and time again. Statistics. Okay, a 2019 study found that high pesticide exposure was associated with a 41% increase in the risk of developing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's why I say it's very strong. And the same thing. How do they impact the gut? They disrupt gut flora. Okay, glyphosate, Roundup. Do you know how many years they spent saying that was safe to put on our food? And that was a load of crap. It was literally the same toxin it is today. It's shown to affect beneficial bacteria and increase harmful bacteria. This is what a big component of why maybe we think a lot more people now have an issue with wheat is the glyphosate that's come on a lot of these products, causing almost an autoimmune response, a rise in actual celiac, and just a massive intolerance to wheat and gluten. So chemicals in our water, another source, right? There's a lot. Water is a really tough one too, and finding the right kind of water filters if you want to do something like that, which is great to do, can be manipulative. So I always advise intensive research on your water filter processes. I've seen people tout high quality water filtration for years and discover after the fact that it's crap, that it was not doing the things they thought it was. So it's something you really want to research, but it's worth having clean water. Okay. Because you know what? Our water takes on so much. If you're on public water, even if you're on a well, sometimes you need to know what's in your well. Just because it's well water doesn't just mean it's healthy. We still want to know what's in it. But local water, we've got industrial discharges, agricultural runoff, you guys. So they're like the feces of the animals that are inoculated with antibiotics, and they're fed an unnatural diet, causing E. coli overgrowth in their gut, all right? And then they're obviously defecating in the fields, and the fields are irrigated with water, and that is then doing what? It's seeping all of that manure that would have, under an organic, healthy circumstance, been very beneficial for our microbiome and for our soil and everything. And in our water wouldn't have been as big a deal. But because we tweaked nature, because we fed cows corn instead of grass, because we shot them with antibiotics to make up for the E. coli that developed because of the corn that they were eating instead of grass, now we've got this, their feces is dangerous to us in our ecosystem, and it seeps into our groundwater.
Do you have a desire for fulfillment? Does helping people tap into their own health mentally, emotionally, and physically fire you up? Do you believe in the impact of the gut microbiome on overall wellness? You may be an HWCA coach. For more info on our cutting-edge health coach trainings, visit hwcacoach.com.
Improper disposal of pharmaceuticals. Okay, I don't know what proper disposal of most pharmaceuticals really consists of. However, the pills and the that we take come out in urine, and that cannot just be filtered. We've got so much hormonal birth control, antidepressants, all kinds of things in the water system that even after the processing of the water is still present in the water. This has a massive effect on our guts. And when I was growing up, they were all about fluoride in the water in the state I was in. And we now know that this massively disrupts gut flora. We're like, oh, it's for our teeth. Well, like, what would you rather have? Nicer fluoride teeth or your health? It's something to be aware of. So water that's a definite one. And common contaminants in our water, we see things like lead, mercuries, PFAs, and the effects of this are neurological disorders. So lead exposure is linked to cognitive deficits. And how often can we just really deduce what is when we've got brain related stuff? There's so much going on. We have so much brain related kind of things that we're dealing with, that how do we really know if someone's exposed to lead? We may not necessarily know right off the bat. Same with things like mercury. Cancers, so PFAs are exposures associated with kidney and testicular cancer, markedly. And according to the CDC, 15 million Americans received water from systems that violated EPA standards. And again, how does this impact the gut? Well, the same way everything else does. It alters gut microbiota, leading to increased gut permeability or leaky gut, chronic inflammation, and risk of autoimmune disease, which we'll get into in a minute. So fourthly, we have got chemicals and body products. And this is one I like to emphasize more because this is so much more of a choice. And again, this isn't a shame session, but it is a reality check, because if you are literally increasing the chemical exposure of your body because you want to smell like Calvin Klein, sometimes we've just got to weigh our priorities, right? And this still may not make a big difference to most people, but our personal care products, shampoos, soaps, cosmetics, common chemicals are like phthalates, parabens, triclosan. These are endocrine disruptors, and they're linked to things like hormonal imbalances. How many people complain about their hormonal imbalances, right? Cancers, parabens are detected in breast cancer tissue samples, and the EWG found that the average adult uses 9 personal care products daily, exposing them to, get this guys, 126 unique chemicals a day. 126 unique chemicals a day. And this has the same impact on our gut. And the thing is that your skin's like your secondary gut. So it is permeable as well. It's meant to absorb, but also release sweat and toxins, right? We release through sweat and we can absorb. So it is there as a protector. It is a big marker actually of your gut health. And so when we're putting chemicals on our skin, just like if you've ever done topical hormones, right? Why do you put progesterone cream on your skin? Because it sinks into your skin. So when you're putting all these harsh chemicals also on your skin and body, you're literally putting them into your body. Like, would you just drink that lotion? No, you wouldn't. So why do you put it on your skin? Yeah, this is something I just don't think we think about enough, because we don't really know what it means, and we don't really know how bad it is for us. So triclosan exposure is shown to reduce bacterial diversity in the gut, and skin absorption through chemicals absolutely affects the gut. So the problem with this, you guys, is the cumulative and synergistic effects of all of this. So to understand cumulative exposure, okay, the body accumulates chemicals from multiple sources, like we just talked about, and it leads to a higher toxic burden. So when you are getting chemicals already in your air that maybe you can't help, maybe there's pollution, emissions from cars, etc. But then you're also getting it in your water, but then you're also putting it on your body, and then you're cooking it and you're eating it in your food. When we're choosing, some of those things we can make choices about more easily. And so it's one thing to test a chemical and say this singular chemical or substance in this amount is perfectly safe for human use, consumption, topical application, whatever. But what's not tested is the cumulative exposure. Okay, but add that chemical to tons of other chemicals and increase the load greatly, and do it every single day, and tell me what happens to the body. And watch our cancer rates skyrocket, watch our autoimmune conditions skyrocket, watch our gut health get depleted. Okay, we can't turn a blind eye to this. And chemicals may have a synergistic effects where it means that if their combined exposure may cause more harm than the initial together. You see that with things, right? That's a science experiment. You make the volcano blow up, right? Because you put the two things that are perfectly fine together. A Mentos and a, what is it that you put that? What is all the kids put the Mentos in the, I don't remember, the Alka-Seltzer and the whatever. Anyway, you mix it together in a soda or something, right? And it explodes out the bottle. These are two things that people consume individually, but when mixed together cause an explosive effect. So this can be happening in our body as well. Sorry about that. Health implications, obviously. So increased risk of chronic disease, including cancer, metabolic syndrome, and autoimmune disease. A study published in the Environmental Health Perspectives found that individuals with higher cumulative exposure had a 50% higher risk of developing chronic illness. This is way bigger. And how it impacts the gut, okay? It's destroying the gut microbiota. So when we want to have a good amount, we want to have 80% of that bacteria be gram-positive, highly beneficial bacteria, and we don't have that, then we see effects on our health. It means that the gram-negative bacteria has overgrown and is having more influence over the state of our health than the gram-positive. And gram-negative bacteria has a very negative effect on our health when overgrown. Gram-positive bacteria has a very positive effect on our body. So we need this balance. We need some of those supposed bad bacteria. We do actually need them because they play a place in the ecosystem, but we don't need a ton of them, right? Like we have lions on an African safari, but guess what? If we had as many lions as we do caribou, there wouldn't be any left. Okay, they just wouldn't exist, right? We have caribou in Africa, right? If not, give me grace. But this is true, right? We have to have way more. We have to have way more of certain things. That's a balance. So we have these predatory animal. Like let me get back to the Pacific Northwest here and use an analogy that I'm familiar with. But like, okay, so here we've got bears here, right? We've got black bears, and if you go deep enough and high enough, you get the grizzlies. These are like nature's most dominant animal, and that's just fine. We have a ton of deer. We have so many deer here, and with the influx of people that we actually hit a lot of deer here, which is unfortunate. But if we, throughout that ecosystem, right, we need the 80-20 or the 90-10 or whatever. We need way more deer who multiply faster, by quantity than we do bears. Because if we had that many bears, there wouldn't be enough food for them. If we had more bears than we have deer, there won't be enough food for them. If we have as many bears as we have deer, there still won't be enough food for them. And then what happens? Then they'd come into town and they'd start eating people, right? It's going to throw off the entire ecosystem. And this is how our gut works in the same way. And it does this by it gets killed off. So we're literally killing off our gut bacteria, sometimes by choice. And how this is linked to autoimmune conditions. If you have an autoimmune condition, or you simply are somebody that doesn't want one, you really need to think about your compound chemical exposure. Because when that gut gets leaky, because we get that dysbiosis, all right? So you've got all this exposure coming in and whatever else is influencing the state of your gut. And when this gets bad, what is that causing? It's causing a leaky gut. And a leaky gut is going to seep into the bloodstream. It's going to cause chronic inflammation. Okay, and it's going to do all kinds of things to the brain as well. But let's just talk about chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is what causes an overactive immune system, and it causes confusion in the immune system response. There's bacteria that actually help control the immune system. Majority of your immune system actually resides in your gut. So in healthy ratios, this is done well. You've got great conductors orchestrating the show. But when you throw off that ecosystem, it's confused and it's not going to orchestrate well. And this is how the wrong signals get sent, and a person's own individual tissues and body gets mistaken as a threat. And this is where we see autoimmune conditions. Rheumatoid arthritis, it's like your joint tissue, and thyroid, autoimmune thyroiditis, it's attacking your thyroid. There's so many like this. And autoimmune diseases in general, autoimmunity is more of a state of the body than different diseases, I would say, in my own personal opinion. It's just how it manifests is based on the person, genetic factors, more predispositions, sensitivities to things, gender, age, but you'll see them grow. So if that's not taken care of, you'll see autoimmune conditions just continue to grow. So this is a problem when we're talking about chemical exposure, because we're literally increasing our rates of autoimmunity. And this is why we need to care. This is why you'll see people who've really struggled with autoimmune disease and done some research holistically, especially thyroid, Lyme, MS, things like that, especially women, will be very careful about the chemicals they use on their body or that they're exposed to. They get really, really conscientious of that, and they should, because they don't want the extra stress on the body. They want to set themselves up for as much success as possible. Okay, so strategies for this, okay, reduce airborne exposure, so indoor air quality. So use the right air purifiers, change them regularly with HEPA filters to reduce indoor pollutants. Increase ventilation, open windows, even in the winter, open them every once in a while, and use exhaust fans. Use natural cleaning products. This stuff, one of the biggest ways to help your indoor air quality is to not use crap that gets trapped inside your home. Products, chemicals, things like that. The less chemicals you bring into your house and use in your house, the less are going to be in your air in your home. So choose natural cleaning products, avoid aerosol sprays, limit time spent in heavy traffic areas with pollution if you can. Check air quality, plant trees and greenery. Plants are an awesome detoxification system. In our food, choose organic, at least look up the dirty dozen. These are the foods that have the most chemical exposure and the most exposure to our body. So at least if you're on a budget, look to buy organic in those foods with the dirty dozen. Look for organic grass-fed meats, etc. Wash your products if you need, peel fruits and vegetables when possible. But if you can buy organic, then you can get the nutrients that exist on the external. Limit processed foods. They contain so much junk, you guys, additives, preservatives. So honestly, we found Cheetos in our travel trailer the other day. We ripped out a board and they were back there. These Cheetos were there for at least 2 years on minimum. They might have been there before we had it. Like we bought it in 2020. Okay, it's 2024. So they could be older than 4 years. And they still kind of look like Cheetos. They should be gone, okay? They're not moldy. They're not anything. They're so full of preservatives. They're not real food. If they're handling like that, they are not real food, especially in the temperature fluctuations. You've got to be kidding me. Again, this isn't shame. It's just real talk today, right? So fake colors and sweeteners. Clean water. Use the right kind of water filters that can remove lead, chlorine, and PFAs. consider reverse osmosis systems and research it. Because like I said, there's a lot of manipulation in the water world. Store water in BPA-free containers. Avoid plastic bottles. Go for glass or stainless steel. You can test your home water supply as well. And body products. This is just big. Body products and household products. Like, avoid products containing parabens, phthalates, triclosan, and synthetic fragrances. Use apps. There's an apps like EWG Skin Deep to check out product safety ratings. Opt for products with natural ingredients, certified organic labels. Make your own personal care. I love doing this. In Buddha Belly in the book, like, I have recipes for like lotion, and we did deodorant that I would make all the time. And now there's even more companies that are making, and even people at farmers markets that are making clean like deodorants that actually work really good. Because for a long time, they just didn't work very good. You're like picking your battles here. But it's great. So there's a lot more out there now, especially eco-friendly cleaning products without such harsh chemicals. I love things like, essential oils. That's where those are really great, especially if you want to like make perfumes and things like that. Use essential oils. Pick things that are actually going to be good for your health and for your mood. It's a game changer. So, and detoxification and, avoiding, so eating a diet rich in healthy foods will help the body detoxify more. The more you support your gut health and avoid overwhelming it with garbage, the more your body's going to work for you. You're drinking plenty of water, staying hydrated, sweating. It's going to help flush toxins out of your system that you just are exposed to. Movement, exercise, certain supplements, the right probiotics, vitamin C, glutathione. These support natural detox processes. I wouldn't say get on everything like glutathione, etc., unless you've consulted with a healthcare provider, just because you don't want to oversupplement anything or interact with anything that you're on. You want to look into that. But the right probiotics and stuff, everybody can do that. Advocacy. So you just keep learning. Keep learning. If you care, just keep learning. These are really basic changes. I became a very simple person when I got into wellness, really did get into it 15 years ago. It's like there's just a lot of things I don't do, and I don't do everything great, but I'm just much more mindful. I use way healthier makeup. I just don't wear as much makeup as maybe I would have when I was younger. And when I do, it's usually healthier stuff. I don't use a lot of soaps and junk on my skin. That's always a funny topic because I'm like that with my kids. I look out for my kids. I've always told them, I have teens now. Like I have a teenager and he needs to shower more often, like every other day for sure. He needs to shower. But I'm like, it's not the big soaps everywhere that are necessarily doing the best. Like you can use really natural soaps or just even sometimes hot water. Like I don't use soaps like that. And my skin, I'm really blessed. Like I take care of my gut so much that I don't notice. It takes a lot for my body to smell bad. It really does. It just doesn't get that bad. And I don't need to use all those products. And I'm not going to throw off the pH of my skin and my body by mistaking that that's the way to do it. And there's big misconceptions right now with the product industry really trying to sell lots of things like full body deodorant. And for the love of Pete, please research this. Okay. If you take care of your internal ecosystem, it'll really help for the external ecosystem. And messing with chemicals, covering up smells and body stuff is just really counterintuitive most of the time. It throws off the pH. It can cause further issues. It can block detoxification pathways on your body. And it just is crazy. It's rough on your skin. Your body has natural protection on that skin, and kids' bodies are real sensitive. Little kids, they don't really, they don't get like stinky armpits and stuff for a while. It's not until hormones come into play. So we just want to be mindful with a lot of these things, even with our children, that this modern idea of clean isn't necessarily healthy. Pick a clean that's healthy. Hygiene is important. It is important to me. It helps us not have as many diseases that people died from years ago that are nothing now. We can just wash our hands and not deal with some of the things that they did, 100 years ago. However, it's gotten over the top and it's commercialized. And so there's a lot of selling antibiotic or antibacterial. Like if you're killing bacteria, you're not just killing the negative bacteria, you're killing the good stuff that's there to protect you. You're killing off your immune system. You're harming your gut. Every time you use an antibacterial anything, it will kill off part of your gut. It will affect your gut. It has the probability of killing off good microbes on your skin and in your gut microbiome, even through skin exposure. So we must keep this in mind to be clean, to be healthy, but we also need to keep our immune system. We don't want to cleanse everything and antibacterialize everything, but then we have no real immune system because we can't hide from germs. We can't hide from bacteria, viruses, etc. We can do our best to avoid, but the best thing we're going to do is wash our hands, be mindful, and strengthen our immune system by protecting those bacteria, not murdering them. Okay, guys, so hopefully you've enjoyed this informative podcast today. And let me know if you have any questions. I mean, feel free to jump in our closed group in Buddha Belly Life. If you're interested in becoming a coach, check out the Gut Health School, theguthealthschool.com, HWCA. I hope you enjoy this. I hope this maybe gave you something to ponder. Send it to a friend. Be like, hey, we can be cute and clean and healthy at the same time. So with that, I will let you guys get back to life. Thanks for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for another empowering episode of Buddha Belly Life. For more information on gut health and mindset resources, visit buddhabellylife.com. And remember, heal yourself and then empower others to do the same.